Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another video. There's another paid request, this time for Akuma 80s. Sorry for the delay. I actually tried to find this film because I do have the film, but it was buried under a bit of stuff, so it took me a bit longer than I wanted to find it, but I do have the film on Blu-ray. And Akuma 80 sent in the paid request for me to do a commentary on Tales from the Hood from 1995. Now, for those interested in requesting any type of videos, commentaries, topics, reactions, reviews, re-reviews, what have you, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. I have a pause at the beginning. 3, 2, 1, pressing play. So now we have focus pictures just for syncing. We have focus pictures, and then it's going to fade away now. And now we're introduced to another thing, is Savoy pictures, which I don't know, this went as extinct as the buffalo, whatever the hell happened. I know, buffalo. I just think of old movies back in the day where Native Americans upset that the buffalo was going to be extinct, and I don't know why. Anytime I think of buffalo, I think of those old school movies from way back in the day. As we talk about Rusty Cundieff, I can't pronounce his last name, I'll call him Rusty. Rusty's film Tales from the Hood, and a horror anthology that actually is one of the better ones. I quite enjoy this movie. I thought the stories worked well. I thought that the folks making it had a bit of energy. It felt like they had something to prove. They had a budget around $6 million, give or take. And there is some special features on this. Sadly, there's some people they did not get to interview, which I wish they had. Maybe they said no. Like David Allen Greer, would have been very interesting to hear his thoughts on this, but maybe he said no. I don't know why. The film definitely got a cult following, and it did get 2 sequels, which were terrible, horrible sequels. That was because Get Out came out in 2017, was a huge hit. What can we find that's in any way, shape, or form similar? Oh, there's that movie Tales from the Hood. Let's get 2 sequels out. Tales from the Hood 2, which had Keith David from John Carpenter's The Thing. And then Tales from the Hood 3, which had Tony Todd. Here we got Clarence Williams III, as our 3 gangbangers are going to enter this funeral home, and Clarence Williams III, who just completely... he's a lot of fun in this. I like Keith David and Tony Todd, but whether because of the budget, because of the way it was filmed, the step down in quality of writing, none of them were ever as good as this one. Neither of those 2 films. I mean, this looked and felt like a theatrical film, while those obviously went straight to, I want to say video, but straight to streaming. Also interesting that a lot of this is orchestra music, not just typical rap. And anthology horror films, I mean, they've been around for quite a while, going back to the days of, Tales from the Crypt TV show, and there's films in the 70s, some of the Amicus films, some of them were anthologies that had people like Peter Cushing or Donald Pleasence or others starred in stories. And during these anthologies, Creepshow in the 80s is definitely a big one. Creepshow 2, which actually Tom Wright, who stars in one of these segments, I believe played the hitchhiker in Creepshow 2. Thanks for the ride, lady. And we'll be seeing him pop up in a bit. I think Spike Lee had his name attached to this. So people go, oh, Spike Lee? Yeah, okay, let's go check it out. I don't know if this did a whole lot at the box office. I mean, didn't do Dame Busters and such. Some would say that the soundtrack probably got a bit more traction than the movie. And in 95, I mean, horror, even though for me there's films I like, Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight, what was it, Species. Yeah, it wasn't a genre that was getting humongous praise all around. I mean, you had Village of the Damned by John Carpenter. You had Ice Cream Man with Clint Howard. You had Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers. You had a film called Blood and Donuts. You had I believe The Prophecy with Christopher Walken. And again, some of these are good films. Like Demon Knight is a fun one, where you got Jada Pinkett before she was slapping Smiths around. You have Billy Zane having a lot of fun. Dick Miller has a bit supporting role in that. That's an entertaining movie. Like Species, I think is a fun alien film. Natasha Henstridge kind of got her to break out a bit into movies. You got Michael Madsen, Ben Kingsley, Forrest Whitaker. I know IMDb and such will say In the Mouth of Madness came out in '94, but that's because there was only in a couple film circuits. But to the public, we didn't know about until 1995. So really, it got into the mainstream for theaters in 1995. So I still think In the Mouth of Madness, I think 1995. And I really enjoy that film. Yes, I enjoyed The Mangler, and that was '95. But yeah, Clarence Williams III just completely attached this role and makes no bones about it. You know, when he does the whole, yes, the shit. I love the shit. He just fully attached that. Clarence Williams III, I mean, this is a guy that was on the TV show The Mod Squad back in the day as Link. And he's done a couple films. He was in 52 Pickup with Roy Scheider. He was in Reindeer Games with Ben Affleck and Gary Sinise. The General's Daughter with John Travolta. You know, he's been in a few films. Not as many as I thought he was. But yeah, this performance just completely... there you go, the shit. The drugs. Get the drugs, then I get the money. Okay. This is all new to me. We'll see more of the sheet later on. And I mean, even if you haven't seen the film, you could probably guess who this guy really is, because you know this wraparound would have some kind of twist and turn to it. And of course, you find out he's the devil himself. But I mean, Clarence Williams III plays a good devil, just fully into it. Anyway, it kind of wasn't that bad of a wraparound. The idea of having a funeral parlor and each body tells a story. They kind of did that with John Carpenter's Body Bags, where it wasn't a funeral parlor. It was the coroner, where John Carpenter played this crypt keeper type of character. It would play kind of role that Clarence Williams III was playing, and introducing these stories, and oh, here's a body here. I would say I like this more than Body Bags, because Body Bags is pretty much 3 stories. Really, the only story I liked is the gas station story. The one with the hair, I mean, it's goofy for what it is, I don't know. I mean, I like Stacy Keach, the lead actor. David Warner, may rest in peace. It was kind of goofy, kind of silly. It was alright. Mark Hamill's The Eye, I think, had potential. I kind of wish I think they could have done a bit more with certain story points in that. But here we're going into each of these stories, 4 stories. And I would say I liked all 4. I would say the strongest one is definitely the David Alan Grier one. This one, I mean, it's a bit prevalent in today's age. Fairly prevalent in today's age because of police brutality and George Floyd and everything of that. Like this one probably would hit fairly home with a lot of people. Now, the top, well, not right now, but kind of the top in the bat there, that is Wiens Hauser. Wiens Hauser, I mean, he's an actor that's been in a variety of movies from back to the day, Vice Squad being one of them. He was in a lot of smaller B movies, Watchers 3 being one of them. He's one of those guys that he would pop up from time to time, and to me, he was always at least interesting. Whether the movie was good or bad, I think he was at least a pretty damn decent actor within whatever story was going on during that. And he is interviewed, which is cool. They did get him for an interview, which is nice to see. Anthony Griffith plays this officer who stands by and does nothing, and he kind of gets his comeuppance for standing aside and doing nothing. Now, the guy getting beaten up, that is Tom Wright. That is Tom Wright, who he's the one getting clubbed right now. He has the tie. He was the hitchhiker in Creepshow 2. Thanks for the ride, lady. And he was also in Men of War with Dolph Lundgren, and he was in, I think, Marked for Death with Steven Seagal. Been in quite a few recognizable films, at least for me. This is where they find out that he is a guy you shouldn't be messing with. He's a guy that's activist, very important member of the community, and this is like the wrong guy to be messing with. When you look at Wiens Hauser and some of the films he's been in, you have Vice Squad, Deadly Force, Mutant I enjoy from 1984. That's one I did like. The Siege of Firebase Glory is actually a pretty good war movie with R. Lee Ermey in it from Full Metal Jacket. Beastmaster 2 Through the Portal of Time, Wiens Hauser played the villain in that. They said Watchers 3. He was in that one film, Rubber. Remember that? About over a decade ago, about the killer tire. As strange as that movie was, I thought it was kind of interesting. He was in a lot of Birdie She Wrote episodes. He was in quite a few of them. Popped up in TV. Quite a few episodes of the A-Team, among others. This is our cops pretty much trying to figure out what to do next and what we should do. And now we have Michael Massey. Now, Michael Massey looks familiar. I would say that the film people remember him the most is The Crow as Fun Boy. And yes, Sally, he was the guy that fired the gun that happened to kill Brandon Lee. Where he never saw the film. He apparently, he had nightmares about it. I know he passed away in 2016. He was 64 years old. It definitely affected him for the rest of his life. I know people may say, well, how come, Michael Massey gets a pass, but people give Alec Baldwin a hard time? Number one, Alec Baldwin is a big star of the picture. He's the one going on and on about these kind of anti-gun type of stuff and all this other stuff. He's a guy that felt like his ego was bigger than it allowed to be. And this is a guy that should have known better and had more power. Well, Michael Massey, I mean, he's very, very low on the totem pole with all these other people above him that you're supposed to trust. And, okay, here you go here, and you fire here, and it's okay. So, definitely Michael Massey, I feel definitely quite more sorry for. And here, not only are they going to get him killed, but they're going to frame him. put drugs in him and so forth. As he's going to die, and then we're going to get into our tale of revenge. Now, this guy here with the mustache, I think that's Dwayne Whitaker. I believe Dwayne Whitaker, he would pop up in, and I want to double check, yes, Feast. He was the guy, the big guy that kind of owned the bar in the first Feast. He was in From Dusk Till Dawn 2, which I like that film. It has its issues in terms of effects, but I do like it. I like Robert Patrick in it. He was in Pulp Fiction, of course. People may remember Dwayne Whitaker from Pulp Fiction. He was in Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 as Tim. He was in The Devil's Rejects, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, 3 from Hell. So he's worked with Rob Zombie quite a bit. Now, of course, here has been some time, and our cop here is just drunk, regrets what happened, turned into this individual here. I don't know why. I always get this film confused. For some reason, I always keep thinking it's going to have the story where it's the woman that does the spray painting on the wall. And I'm like, no, that's not this one. No, that's not this one. What is that one I keep thinking of with that? There's definitely a hell of an image where literally on the cross, Jesus style. Hood of Horror. I think that's what I'm thinking of. Which is not as good as this one. That's the one I think Snoop Dogg is in it. But I mean, Anthology's been around for a while. I mean, back to that I mentioned like films like The Vault of Horror. Yeah, you had the Creep Shows. You had Cat's Eye, which is a good one. I love the James Woods segment, Smokers Inc. Trying to find dire ways to stop smoking, and people are forcing him to do it by these various ways. You have The Ledge with Robert Hayes from Airplane, goes around this ledge as a forced bet. If you don't do it, we'll kill you. If he does do it, he might fall off this high ledge. Drew Barrymore, this little troll is trying to attack her when she's sleeping, and this cat protects her. That's actually one of my favorite anthologies. Same with Creep Show. Trick or Treat, around 2009, that's definitely a great one. This would probably be in my top 5 anthologies. I know Creep Show, Cat's Eye, Trick or Treat, and this one would be in my top 5. I mean, there's been other anthologies that have come out since, but some of them are pretty... Other than Trick or Treat, a lot of them are pretty poor for me. Holidays was one. I didn't really care for that. And then Snoop Dogg's Hood of Horror, Tales from the Hood 2 and 3. And it's sad that, like, if you get a horror anthology nowadays, you don't really see them going to theaters. I mean, the closest is maybe the VHS films. But even then, they strictly go towards streaming service. Like VHS, the last, 2 VHS films was on Shudder. And usually they have, like, 1 or 2 segments that work. Some, none of them. I like VHS 2. I would say that's my favorite of the... I think there's been... I think 5 now. I think there's been 5 now. Jeez, 4 or 5. I know there's been... No, there's been 5. Because I know the 4th one had the segment I liked that reminded me of Doom. And the 5th one, I didn't... I just... Maybe interesting ideas, but... Either they didn't have... Here, I think... Compared to something like that... Sticking with 4 stories, I think, worked well, because each of the stories had a bit more room to breathe. Because when you try to put in 5, 6, 7 stories, you can, but then that leaves less time for films to breathe, to develop. Like here, at least, you're developing a little bit of this guy became a drunk, who these cops are, how they're reacting to this. build up of the death of this character and the revenge. At least there's enough wiggle room there to build up the film. I mean, build up the story so it doesn't feel too truncated. Because sometimes that can happen, and that's the danger of an anthology, is that usually with a story, you're given a certain amount of time to fully flesh it out. Well, because of this, it has to be a short story, but or you don't have enough time to build up the character, or you don't have enough time to build up a story that you don't care about. Build up of not interest will be enough of a satisfying payoff. And then will you build up any of the characters to be interesting enough for you to care what happens? I think here, because they got some pretty decent actors here. I mean, Wayne Hauser, Tom Wright, Michael Massey and such. I think that definitely helped. And Rusty, like, he didn't really do much directing after this. I mean, he worked behind the scenes on The Chappelle Show, among other stuff. But I'm good at that, following orders. I mean, yeah, this is very prevalent. I mean, this is something that you can look at in today's age and holds up. Still sadly prevalent. I'm one of those guys that I don't hate the police because I think the police are still needed. I think there are good police out there, but sadly the awful ones overshadow the good ones. And like every sect, every business, every force, there are good firemen and firewomen. There's bad firemen and firewomen. There's good doctors. There's bad doctors. There's good fast food workers. There's good ones and there's bad fast food workers. There's good cops and there's bad cops. And the bad cops really hurt the reputation of the good cops. They truly do. Because think about how many cops are in each city, each town, each area throughout the entire country. I mean, like if I say how many cops are in the U.S., I mean, think about it. How many cops in the U.S.? I mean, I don't even know if there would be a statistic. Yeah, you should never piss on someone's grave. You can piss on hospitality. It may not be allowed, but don't piss on someone's grave. Because it just ain't going to end well for you. It just ain't. It just ain't. Ooh. In the nut clincher. Literally the nut clincher. Yeah, about 140,000 in California, 140,000 Texas, 126,000 New York. I mean, at least, over a million. And sadly, like everything, there's going to be some that just overstep their bounds and just are awful, awful people. When the fuck do we start to panic? A little bit of dead body there, and we got our... Which Tom Wright is used to this. Because again, he played the hitchhiker in Creepshow 2. Kind of him, right from the goal. Thanks for the ride, copper. I did like the detail of the hard steel puppet in his hand. That's a nice little detail. Of course, the one cop is not dead because he brought the cops to him, but he'll be in a mental institution. And then these folks would get their comeuppance. It works well. It doesn't overstay its welcome. The makeup isn't too bad on Tom Wright. You got sort of our zombie portion, our zombie segment. That's the thing, is that if you don't have 4 or 5 segments, you gotta have each one seem unique enough so it doesn't seem like one feels exactly like the other. So this one is the revenge zombie aspect. Another one will be revenge is usually seen to be the common theme, but you have the abuse one, you have the doll one, past sins of back in the day, and of course, yes, this is dealing with the issues facing this community. In this case, police brutality, and you know, the other segment, domestic abuse, and another segment, remnants of racism and slavery from back in the day. Another one, the dangers of gang warfare and the people that get hurt in the crossfire. And number one, I do think this is a better made. That's why it was so weird. Like some of the same people involved with this came back to do those sequels, and they were just so either hamstrung by their budget or a lot of rust on their writing. So things like these issues are here, but it also doesn't forget to entertain you. Like this is a pretty good like need a little head there, guy. Don't lose your head. There's a nice disembodied head there. That's a weird bit with the gun. Like you look at the gun, it's like sometimes he's firing the gun, looks like it's going to be a lighter. If you go back and watch his gun, like he's firing it like a lighter coming out. I don't know what the deal is with that. If that's more realistic, if that's less realistic. Because I can't say I ever fired a gun. Never fired a gun, so I don't know if that's more real, less real. It just looks like he's firing it and looks like he's ready to come out like a lighter. That's a little bit of a remember what you sowed. Remember, wrong way, man. Wrong way. You're running the wrong way. It's also kind of weird. Like Michael Massey is playing a guy who, in this place, killed someone, and then like when he's saying I killed him, I do wonder if there's any part of his brain that thinks of Brandon Lee, as if this is maybe him wanting to be part of this movie as sort of a he still feels like he deserved to be punished or something. I don't know. I just wonder maybe some other psychological aspect for this actor. One of the reasons he took this role, took this job. I kind of weirdly looked at his stomach. There's like a big old cylinder thing in there. There you go. You want drugs so badly? There you go. You take the drugs now. No pain, no gain. Ooh, there you go. That's an interesting quick shot from inside the mouth. I see, like, there's certain gags and certain bits like that like, even this here, like, that's pretty crazy. Like, he does go into the wall. Maybe that's why I was getting confused. Like, this scene here, and then they try to have that spray painting lady in Hood of Horror. There you go. Etched forever. I think like things like this is what makes it work. Is that it's not just about cops; it's about responsibility as well. And he doesn't get off easy either. He gets accused of killing these cops, and he'll be in an insane asylum forever. It just seems like sometimes when they try to lecture people, it comes off as they hate men or they hate white people. Or, for example, everything I've heard about this Velma TV show and just certain dialogue and certain things that are said, it's like, I guess some white people suck, but there's also some of every race, gender, creed, color, because human beings are flawed, and there are some that are better than others. Doesn't regardless of skin, creed, color, gender, country. Every country has some decent people and some crappy people. That's just reality and statistics. I guess here I thought I've just handled better. I thought it still felt part of the story. It felt like they were telling the story first with the messaging second or third. Now a lot of times it's the message is the first and second thing, and story is a distant third. Like things have shifted, things have done a 180, and they just don't come off as either witty or clever or interesting, or they just come off more preachy. They just come off more of a lecture and trying to make certain population feel bad. I'm like, no, you're going in there still to be entertained. As a horror film, I just said the makeup effects there, like the guy melting into the wall. I thought that was kind of an interesting effects, an interesting way they did that, especially for the budget for the time. You had some grisliness there. Now we're in the Boys Do Get Bruised story, which I think is one that people remember the most, as this little child played by Brandon Hammond, who he was in Mars Attacks, he was in Soul Food, Waiting to Exhale. There's this monster he keeps being fearful of and will draw pictures of, and come to find out that the monster is a lot closer than we may think. Or maybe you already do think. Now, I believe this guy's the director himself, Rusty. This guy who's sort of the teacher at school. Because he was an actor. I think he was in Spike Lee's film School Days, among other stuff. So I guess he figured out I want to be part of this film as well. And yeah, Brandon Hammond plays his little kid Walter. And pretty much we have our good guy here, played by the director, and our soon to be, we're going to find out this bad guy, David Alan Grier. I would say, like, David Alan Grier is such a. He's usually known as a very silly comedian. You look at. What was that movie with Damon Wayans? Blanked Man. You look at In the Army Now with Pauly Shore. You look at. Yeah, In the Army Now with Pauly Shore and again Blanked Man. A few other movies, like David Alan Grier usually plays a silly, goofy, comedic character. Very rarely did he get to show his dramatic muscles, and in this case, being such a piece of trash human being, as it says here that he has this wound, a few days old, and you find out it's a stepdad. It's not his dad, his stepdad. The monster, because you just say the kid. How would a kid visualize something that's happening? He would visualize it as a monster, because a parent, a step parent doing that to a kid is a monster. And of course, because it's Tales from the Hood, there is a bit of supernatural, thus the paper, and be able to defeat the monster in that way. And in the kid, you visualizes, or you say you. If you're watching this, you've seen the film, so I'm explaining stuff on screen that you already know. But I mean, you have a kid in danger, and you feel bad for him. You really gauge into his fear. I think for a lot of people, this hit close to home because it's stuff they had to deal with in their personal lives. So it's kind of living, what do I want to say, living through the character and understanding what the character's going through. And it makes sense that he was hiding the monster, not wanting to show it. Number one, for the surprise at the end. But you do feel bad for the character. I usually say there's a bit of a montage of events happening. I mean, here they're kind of using the same shot of the camera going up to the second floor of the window. This the monster how he sees it. And it's been a while since I've seen this. I'm trying to think if, obviously because of the end, there's some type of supernatural involved, but if David Allen Greer really is a monster, or if just that's how the kid visualizes him. I mean, we see like he does the claws, but or just that's how the kid visualizes it and able to use his. I'm just trying to think what makes it where these drawings is able to kill the monster. I'm trying to remember. Then tear it or burn it up, it'll go away. Kid kind of explained it there. Explains that he can overcome something he doesn't like, such as the monster he keeps talking about, by destroying an image of it. So he draws a drawing of Tyrone, the school bully. He crumples up the drawing, causing the real Tyrone to suffer spontaneous injuries. So in a way, this kid kind of, I mean, it's about a kid who has this type of power. That's why we hear this boy screaming and just baby people. And there you go. He got fucked up. Fell down the stairs. There you go. How do you break both arms and legs falling down? Maybe, yeah. He's the Sam Jackson of Unbreakable. That's what he is. He is that. I'm trying to remember that process he had with his bones. What is that called? I forget. There's a certain technical term of what Sam Jackson prognosis was with his bones. Interesting that they make it a point too to hide David Allen Greer as much as possible. Like we really don't see much of him. Really to the point that we don't know that David Allen Greer exists right now. And maybe that's the purpose, is that if we saw this character earlier, people would go, oh, well, yeah, that's probably the monster, or that's what it is. But in a way, they're trying to hide it a bit to keep the audience a bit at bay. Again, I guess, for the audience to not be told ahead of time, oh yeah, there's this guy named Carl, David Allen Greer's character. And that's why the kid put his head down, because the mom's lying about it. Mom doesn't want to tell the truth and is hiding everything about it. Always clumsy. Which sadly is something that happens a lot with these type of conditions, where the dad's doing something or the stepdad doing something, and the mom is, oh, it's nothing, it's clumsy, trying to make it react to it, trying to make it and I mean, it makes me dislike her as well as a character. And that's where we don't get the reveal of who this guy is. Yep, here we go. David Allen Greer. And right then and there, just from that first interaction, why didn't you get the damn door? All this stuff. And this guy, he obviously cannot read the room, so to speak. I mean, you just say that he realizes he needs to stand up for something and he needs to figure out what's going on. Disney wants to help this kid, but don't act too naive, guy. And pretty much here we don't get into the. I remember hearing something about, like, at first people, oh, it's David Allen Greer, of course, David Allen Greer, this is in living color, two snaps and blah blah blah. They just knew him from comedy. They go, oh, David Allen Greer, okay, but then as it goes on, and you just see how serious he takes this role, how serious everything takes it, how he just completely has this facade. And David Allen Greer really commits, like, you really buy him being serious and somewhat scary and just a really piece of trash human being of a character. I will say, this teacher, like I say, he doesn't know how to read the room. He really does not know how to read the room, so to speak. And I'm sure this must have been a very different type of role for David Allen Greer. And he rarely gets to play these type of scary, creepy, just hateful characters. And you have the mom that won't do anything because she just sucks it up and goes along with it. You have the teacher that, just naive and doesn't quite get what's going on. And it does a nice job, like, making you feel, because it's a very touchy subject. It's very touchy. Again, in his eyes, it's the monster. It's a creature. Because that's just how the kid sees him. You like to draw fucked up pictures of people, huh? I'm sure at first people maybe chuckled nervously at first because they didn't know how to react, and then it just sort of a deathly silence, like, "Ooh, God, this is just very." People can relate to it. People have been through this. People are going through stuff like this, and it's you know not holding back on it. And it's one of those things where, yeah, I think a lot of people, because they can relate to it, because they've been through it, it becomes that bit more of a powerful. Oh, he's got a tattoo of monster on it. Definitely likes doing those kind of punches there. Yeah, come on, teacher, do something. You ain't gonna do shit. You're gonna get your ass whooped. I mean, how many times do you see David Allen Greer in this type of role? Punching people, beating the hell out of people, overtaking people? I will say the teacher's trying, even though he's fucking up and doing a shit job. Getting your ass kicked. Yeah, big old spittle of blood. Definitely keeps an intensity to it all. Bloody mouths and all. She tried. Ooh. This is definitely a nice highlight for effects. Just twisting and turning. Obviously, these shots are pretty quick because they can unintentionally be looked at as funny if you do it. Like, I mean, that could be looked at as the shit ain't over yet, bitch. He seems like that guy in Beetlejuice that got crushed and had to be carried away. I mean, definitely a unique way to go. I mean, these two don't seem that horrified as to how the hell this kid was able to do this. No one's going to believe us. Look at the way his body is. That's going to be. People don't think that's scientifically impossible. You know? I did like the. It's funny that the teacher and the mom, they're like, how the hell did you do that? No. How did that happen? No. Like, no one reacts to how the hell that happened, why that happened, did that come to be? Can he do that with other things? How did he have this power? Like, no one reacts to that. It's just, yeah, it's normal, I guess. Okay. Just normal. Happens every day. Walter killed the monster. It's also nice that, you don't have every story be like this downbeat twist ending. Like, that didn't have a downbeat twist ending. It was someone getting their just desserts. And a lot of times that could be a common theme in anthologies, is that people getting their just desserts, getting their comeuppance. In this case, talk about comeuppance. Yeah, this Corbin Burnson from The Dentist 1 and 2, which I know those came out recently on Blu-ray from Vestron. He was in Major League 1 and 2. He's been in a few TV shows. He plays Duke in this story coming up here. Who's this racist senator running for governor. And it's cool they got Corbin Burnson to do an interview for this. Like, that was nice to see. Now, this character, if you understand, the character was part of the Ku Klux Klan at one point. His father, or his ancestors, should say, owned a plantation, which his place is at right now. This other guy I do recognize. Is it this guy? I want to make sure this is the guy I'm thinking of. Yeah, this guy is kind of the aide to Corbin Burnson, who's in the office. That's a guy named Roger Guinevere Smith. I remember from this Steven Seagal movie called Mercenary for Justice, because I saw Seagal's direct-to-video films. Most of them I can't remember much detail, but I did see them all. And he was in School Days, Do the Right Thing, Teen of New York, Deep Cover, Malcolm X, Poetic Justice, and this movie. So he was in quite a few of these films. That's probably how he got in this, his collaboration with Spike Lee. Now that guy there is Art Evans with the hat. Art Evans, I remember the most from Die Hard 2. He's a guy who Bruce Willis is protecting against the bad guys. Remember, there's a guy with a bunch of SWAT team members, and they come across the bad guys, and there's Robert Patrick going, "You're a sitting duck," and shoots all the SWAT guys, and there's one guy left, Art Evans, and then Bruce Willis comes in and shoots everybody, shoots Robert Patrick. I think even John Leguizamo was one of them. Takes care of all of them and gets Art Evans. Then that thing outside blows up. Art Evans did a great job in Die Hard 2. He's been in a lot of other stuff as well. I think he was in Trespass with Bill Paxton, and I believe he was in that, Trespass. He was the detective in Fright Night, the original Fright Night. He's the guy that William Ragsdale, Charlie Brewster, tries to get to believe him, but Art Evans doesn't believe in him, and goes on his merry way. Yeah, in Die Hard 2, he played the character Leslie Barnes, and he was in Trespass as well. He was in Metro. He was Eddie Murphy's partner, but then Art Evans gets killed by the bad guy. And then Eddie Murphy wants revenge for the death of Art Evans. So Art Evans has been around. He's been in quite a few stuff. Michael Wincott, by the way, was such a great villain in Metro. But yeah, Corbin Burnson, again, he does a good job here. I think the whole thing adds to a southern charm. Now, the whole premise here is that upon hearing that his slaves would be freed at the end of the Civil War, flew into a murderous rage and massacred all of them. The two, there was a large painting of Miss Cobbs, a witch who transferred the slaves' souls inside a number of small dolls that she traded, surrounded by the dolls themselves. The dolls are supposedly still in the house, and it has the souls of these slaves from back in the day being murdered on the plantation, which this place is built upon. So like I say, each of these stories does go into a theme that is valid. But at the same time, because there's actually some pretty decent direction in this, maybe because either, hey, we need to prove something, we don't go into theaters, we got a bit of a budget, so we got a bit of a slick production. But it just, again, how is it that the folks who wrote this would write Tales from the Hood 2 and 3 and do such a crummy job with it? That's so dumbfounding to me. Like Darren Scott wrote him and Rusty wrote the film. And I'm trying to remember Tales from the Crypt 2 and 3. Because honestly, those films are so bad, I don't remember a damn thing about them. To be perfectly honest. Like Rusty and Darren directed and wrote Tales from the Hood 2. That's the one with Keith David as the host. And for those who don't remember, let me remind you these stories, which you had a wraparound story, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, just like this. But opening story, in the future, a racist, sleazy prison operator lead a team to construct an army of AI robo-patriots. Functions law enforcement officers. Recruits Keith David to fill their heads with information from his stories to help them better determine who is a criminal and thereby fill his prisons, suggesting Black Lives Matter as the theme. Good Golly deals with a Gollywog doll named Golly G. I don't even want to get into these, man. The Medium. Even as I'm looking through Wikipedia, I still don't barely remember this stuff. I mean, the date night was two guys get these girls, and they play a bit of Cards Against Humanity, and you find out the girls are vampires. Internet predators who, instead of being killed, have been accidentally turned to vampires themselves and left to starve. I'm just looking at these stories. I go, what? Like Tales from the Hood 3 with Tony Todd. I don't screw it. I don't even want to go into this stuff. I'm staring blankly at this stuff. I'm like, I got nothing to say about these. I already reviewed these. Just go by and rewatch my reviews. Just that's a lot that people don't understand. When it's a movie that bad, I don't remember them. I do the review and then I forget about them, and say, well, why did you not like them? I'd have to rewatch my review because some films I have to put into the recycle bin and delete it and just be done with it. There's too many movies to try to fit in this head. Some just have to leave. This at least is worthwhile. And I know I missed it, but his aide got killed down the stairs, and here's his doll nearby. Happens to be missing from the painting. Which is strange because I think it was in the painting. But the camera went down, the doll was underneath. Maybe that's meant like the soul was stuck in the painting, then went to the doll, maybe? I don't know. But I know they said that it's trapped in the doll. Whatever. I'm not supposed to look that deep into it, I know. But yeah, I guess you could say this is the killer doll section, because you had the zombie revenge section, you had the domestic abuse section, now you have the killer doll section. Which, I mean, that goes back to, Trilogy of Terror. We can talk about dolls or killer dolls and such. And that's the thing, I can't remember the last horror anthology that went into theaters. I don't even know. And like I said, when you look back in the past 20 years, there's more bad than good, sadly. I mean, I like VHS 2. Trick or Treat's really good. But then most of the VHS films, no. Holidays, I didn't Hood of Horror, Creepshow 3. I didn't even talk about Creepshow 3. Yeah, Corbin Burson does a really good job as just playing this guy. You just can't wait to get a comeuppance on. I say, okay, Corbin, you have to yell at a doll. It's kind of hard to do that without looking a bit silly, but I think Corbin is able to make that work a decent amount. And sometimes he does say some bad words, but if he's playing a racist, those type of words don't come out of that type of character. And 1995, I mean, just in not just horror, but in films in general, there's some pretty good ones this year in '95. You had Desperado, Robert Rodriguez's film. You had Heat, classic with Al Pacino, Robert De Niro. Die Hard with a Vengeance, which I love. Die Hard with a Vengeance. Crimson Tide. Virtuosity, which I liked with Denzel Washington. Mortal Kombat from '95. That's a very fun movie. I think Bad Boys, the first one came out in '95, and that's a damn good one. Yeah, a lot of a lot of action films in '95. Outbreak, really enjoyed Outbreak. Of course, Braveheart, it's a good one. I think the big movies that year were Batman Forever, Apollo 13. Yeah, Batman Forever, Apollo 13, Ace Ventura When Nature Calls, GoldenEye. So, the Crimson Tide. A lot of decent ones in '95. Corbin just did more and more pieced. That's an interesting detail to have the painting's face bleed like that. And you got some bit of a kind of like a stop motion animation there, which is nice to see because that's an old format that I do like. I do enjoy. Again, it helps when you have the look and the budget to make some of these scenes work well compared to the straight to video films. But if I go Tales from the Hood IMDb, I think this gets a 6.5. While Tales from the Hood 3 gets a 5, which I don't think it should get that high. And the second one gets a 4 point something, I think. Puts on the dartboard, shoots it. It's like, yeah! To overcome the power of the double barrel shotgun. And like, oh shit, look at all the ones missing now. Oh shit. That's kind of that reaction. Oh shit. At the end, you just make the character even more hateful by having him throw these little racist digs. But again, Torben Burson is giving a very good performance. He definitely what makes this installment work. This segment work, I should say. But like I said, a lot of these don't really deal a lot of theatrical play like they did back in the day. But that's because, I mean, this film. What did this film make? It says 11 million on a $6 million budget. That's not a lot. When you take in, a chunk had to go back to the movie theater chain and how much of that doesn't include marketing. And some nice stop motion animation there, which is always nice to see. Because I'm a sucker for stop motion animation. I think it's a cool format. I know that show Robot Chicken did that, and quite a few stuff by the usually stop motion stuff like some of the Evil Dead films, among many others. Yeah, it's a format. And now all the dolls are gone. It's a nice reveal. All of them are gone now. There's nothing left. I'm trying to remember. Is he not allowed to go out the window or something? Uh-oh. That's a whole shitload of them. I guess to show this guy's more of a coward than he lets on. And of course covering himself in the American flag. As they eat him up. Keep thinking this lady's going to mention The Stand. Go on about the flag. We must stand. No, that's not Ruby D. Foot the Barbie. This is bullshit. So now we get into our final story, which will actually lead back to these three guys. Of course, this is the story of Crazy K, played by Lamont Bentley, who I think sadly the star of this segment, he passed away, I believe, in a car accident. And from what I understand, he was on the TV show Moesha, which ran for, what, 6 or so seasons. And this one, like I said, it's, again, to make each segment unique so that one doesn't feel like the other and doesn't feel like you're playing the same old hat. And also, they're strong stories. Like, that's the thing. I think Tales from the Hood 2 and 3, the stories weren't that strong. I mean, Tales from the Hood 2, the wraparound is Robo Patriot robots? Really? With cheap CG? Like, come on, dude. Two guys get horny with two girls, and they're vampires, and something to do with internet predators? What? So yeah, Crazy K is pretty much. I don't want to say like. Now these three is in silhouette. You see these three, you don't see their faces. Well, there's a reason for that, because these three here happen to be the three in our wraparound story. And that's why we don't see these faces. They're obscured, because that will be revealed later, as these are the three that we've been following in the wraparound segments. Which I thought was nice that the fourth segment would tie into the wraparound in that way. And I guess you could say this is sort of a what if. Like, what if you didn't get killed? What if the cops came and you got a second chance? But it's kind of an interesting idea. Could all of us get a second chance like this? Or would that not happen? Again, you never see a clear cut of their faces because they don't want it to be let on. I mean, I don't know if this needed to be in this that kind of clunky slow motion. It seemed as if it wasn't, natural John Woo slow motion. It's kind of like, it just looked a bit clunky. I don't know if that needed to be in slow motion. But I guess you say this a little bit of A Clockwork Orange, maybe even a teeny bit of Jacob's Ladder in a way, a teeny bit. But I think probably Clockwork Orange, a person trying to be rehabilitated. I mean, the sorry about the clearing of the throat. So pretty much our character here is going to be in an experiment, what they call, yeah, experimental trial. Damn, going to the house on Haunted Hill. Like I said, I don't really have, I mean, I don't have a ton of issues. Yeah, I don't have a whole ton of issues with the film. Not really. That's definitely a weird sight. People just naked upside down in body bags and shit. Again, is this meant to be purgatory? Is this meant to be somewhere else entirely? I mean, this isn't a real place because he just plopped right back to where he was to be killed. Now, I would say this is probably my least favorite of the four stories, but I do like Rick Dean here. I wish we could have seen much more of the. I like him as an actor. Rick Dean, I've seen, he was in Carnosaur 2 and 3, playing different roles. And I just think he had a good presence to him. And he plays a white supremacist in this. I think Rick Dean just really sells this moment, sells this whole sequence. And like I said, this is probably my favorite part of the segment. Like I was saying before, I don't really have a lot of issues. That's not true. I would say if I have any issues, this one seems to run a bit long, even though technically it's not. So as you can easily tell, this is a guy who's a complete white supremacist. And an end of days of people of color. That's his frame of mind. I kind of want to see a whole movie story with this character that's so interesting. I think because just the way his acting performance is really good. Those guys you killed, what color were they? And that made some pause. So you do the same thing I do. Pretty much he's going, I've killed black people, you killed black people. We're doing the same thing. I think that part there, it's just interesting, the idea of you're killing your own people, you're killing your own brothers, you're killing your own brethren. What are you doing that for? Why are you doing it? Why? Listen, I really do like Rick Dean's performance. I think he really sells that. And again, I've liked him in other movies. So I wish we could have seen more of him. That is the prime scene of this whole segment. I remember after this, it kind of goes a bit meh. I did try and go with this bit of, I did Clockwork Orange type of thing, but then you realize that obviously this is in the real world, so it makes you wonder: is this supposed to be again purgatory? Whether they give you a second chance to maybe enter to enter heaven or to enter something else, like, and why is it done this way? And it raises a bit more questions than the others, as dumb as that might sound. And I mean, I still like the segment, but the others just seem like it went at a more, I don't know. I like the pacing of the other three more. But there's definitely some interesting sequences, like this whole thing, having this whole damn tube, the idea shoved into his nose. Like, I'm sure all it is just, doing this. And just, you fill in the blanks. This weird, medieval, not quite cyberpunk, but like torture device thing. It's just, I don't even know how the hell you describe it. They definitely didn't hide his bulge. It's right there, prime and ready for everyone to see. Also, I felt like this equipment, it kind of. Maybe this is where the budget kind of lessened a bit compared to the other sequences. Like this whole laboratory kind of seems a bit from, I don't know, left over from 1964 or something. God, look at that old school computer graphic. He's the bionic man. We can rebuild him. Pretty much showing them like the comparison between the Ku Klux Klan members killing people of color, and then he's killing people of color. Well, it's kind of interesting to have that comparison because it makes that both parties are guilty. Not one's better than the other, but both parties are guilty. There's definitely an attack on the Dane life, and why you're making us kill each other, and then a bunch of random deaths. I wonder, like, if I can't remember the feature. It's been a while since I've listened to the special features, but did they just take a day and go, okay, we're gonna kill all these people, so go over here and get shot, go over there and get shot. Okay, we have some at nighttime, we got some in daytime. I mean, definitely some strong images. I'm guessing the photographs are real images, so that makes it a bit, disconcerting, of course, because it's real, and I don't know, just definitely slain a lot. By the way, this is he's like a serial killer. So, like, why is he getting this second chance? Like, why are they giving this supposed second chance to redeem himself? Does everybody go through this? Is it just him that's going through this? It just seems like, okay, we don't show a lot of these real awful images, and it's like, I hate to say it, I don't really want to see those images. Like, it's one thing to see simulated because it's horrible, but it's fake. But I don't want to see the real thing. I don't want to see real dead bodies. Just like I don't want to see real animals get killed in movies. I don't want to see real, photos of real dead bodies. It just, I mean, it is horror, but at the same time, it's like it's not really what I signed up for. At the same time, but I get why they did it as well. So he's lowered in this chair into this darkened room, and I mean, this is where he's gonna, deliver people with epilepsy. But I think this is where he's visited by his past victims. But yeah, if you have epilepsy, you're not going to make it through this. I mean, did this need the epilepsy thing? I don't know. Cause I don't have epilepsy, but it even makes me hard to watch this. I guess they thought maybe this flicker would they deem more scary or and there's a little innocent girl that got caught in the crossfire. Like Lyra just says to the girl, "You're at the wrong place at the wrong time." I just this flicker is just to make the appearance of these people appearing out of thin air. But he's a guy that doesn't take responsibility. Yeah, I don't know if you needed this whole epilepsy flicker thing. Like I said, if you have epilepsy, I keep repeating that because I don't know what else to say. It just, I didn't realize just how much. It's been a while since I've seen this, but I didn't realize just how much of this fucking flicker there was. Holy shit! Giving you a shot at redemption. I mean, maybe it could have been interesting if there was some kind of doubt on whether he wants to choose or not. Any doubt of what he wants to do and not do. Like, does he want to redeem himself? Does he not want to redeem himself? And that's gets into sort of the Jacob's Ladder thing where we're back to where we started. So again, you just say maybe it's kind of like the Jacob's Ladder thing, like you're in the realm of death and you don't choose whether which way you don't go up in this verge of purgatory. Now his shot of redemption, I don't know what that would have led to. I guess maybe lead to the cops coming and all this other stuff out. I don't know. And here's the reveal. I mean, maybe people could have guessed that right away, but it's, still, nice to see. I'm sorry, I'm just waiting for Clarence Williams the third. Yeah, the shit. Oh yes, follow me. He's just having a ball with this. We don't get the shit now. Just the way Clarence says those definitely has a turn of a phrase. Sorry, I just keep watching them now. As we're getting to the finale, that we're getting to pretty much the end of it all, where these three are going to find out just exactly where they're at. There's a nice touch of him turning these light bulbs one by one individually. Now, again, you may guess what's in these coffins, but it's still worthwhile. Could not have happened to better people. But imagine if they like went to the wrong coffins and like he's looking at his other guy. I mean, not the best effect with the glowing red guns. After you killed Crazy K, a few of his boys killed you. Yes, you didn't make it. He's just having a ball with this. You ain't the terror dome either. No, that's not really a good effect. It's like an animated cartoon ton thing. And back to the day when you try to do these morph effects that go from one to the other. This is probably the weakest effects in the movie. They definitely didn't have the budget for this. And yeah, this is not. That's probably why they're fading away pretty quickly. You tell the ending, they kind of fade away fairly quickly because like, we'll do a little bit this, but yeah, not so much. I mean, they could have done that a bit different, a bit better. What they could have done is, for example, have three stuntmen. Boom, they're burnt up on fire, or with a snap of his fingers, they turn to bones, or any of the bit. I mean, all you have to do is go welcome to hell. Also, to turn to a devil like that, I don't know. I think showing them their dead body, saying welcome to hell, and you just say, I'm here to give you the guided tour. As I don't know, maybe did some makeup effects where they're burning up or something. have Clarence laugh. He does this. Boom, goes to black. Again, the weak ending, like the effects did not help it. I forgot about that ending, man. But with and again the last story isn't as interesting as the first three as I watch it again. Other than Rick Dean, I probably said that when I reviewed the film as well. This has been a while since I've seen it, but still a pretty good movie. Can be Robert Kurtzman, Great Ninja Taro, Howard Berger doing the effects. Can't go wrong with those guys. Those guys worked on Evil Dead 2. They worked on Intruder. They worked with John Carpenter from time. Like they're really good makeup effects guys. And as for the bonus features, you have a trailer, TV spots, and you have the making of, and the making of is 56 minutes long. And just to let you know, like who's on it, you got. I'll flip through it real quick for those who don't have the Blu-ray. Rusty, director writer. Darren Scott, producer writer. They're interviewed. They talk about films like Vault of Horror and things of that nature. Okay, let me see who this guy is. Kenneth Hall, special effects supervisor. Oh, the Kyoto brothers did the doll effects. Okay. The Kyoto brothers also worked on Critters. Those effects in the Critters movies. They directed Killer Clowns from Outer Space. That kind of makes sense now that they worked on those effects. Let's see. Anthony Griffith, who plays the police officer Clarence, that doesn't say anything. But Wayne Hauser as the evil, the dirty cop. Trying to think like if there's in the second for the second story if there's anything. No, just the directors and the effects guy. And the third story, you got Corbin Burnson. And the Kyoto brothers. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. Like I said, it's too bad Rick Dean was not around. Sally passed away way too soon. Who else? David Allen Greer. Or even the little kid that grew up. It's Sally. He didn't get to be part of it. I'm surprised there's no interviews with TMB. Because those guys talked a lot about other movies. I mean, they talked about working on In the Mouth of Madness. They talked about working on... What was it? Was it The People? One of the Wes Craven films, I believe. Could be wrong. I thought. I think they talked a little bit working on Deep Star 6. So usually they're up for talking about stuff, but I don't know. Maybe they were busy or something else happened. But anyway, I'm rambling. Thanks for watching. Take care. Thanks once again to Akuma 80s. And we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.